Hey guys, Valkyr. Rift 2024 is here. And as an RTA main, I normally don't do PvE guides, but since you literally can get more gear here than hunts, I feel like I have to contribute to the community. As a known lazy guy, I'm honestly just here to pass on some tips and in the form of a guide to help other lazy guys like me, since I don't like to get into the details. If you're the type of guy that likes to get into the details, I will link my main man's Tristan's channel down below, since he was my main source of info and he's the one that got me started. So the idea of this rift, as you can see, is that we're fighting a Kraken. The Kraken has 8 tentacles and each tentacle increases his damage by a lot. Now, the way you cut off these tentacles is by performing an AoE attack like Vivian does here, and every time, whenever you see Wukong spin that pimp cane, like so, pew! Boom, tentacle severed. And you'll see that the boss now has a severed tentacle, and this will increase the damage you deal by like a lot. The challenge with this is that every time the boss takes a turn and attacks you, he spawns more tentacles, back up to 8. But these severed tentacles actually block off how many he can spawn, since the boss also gain combat readiness based on the turns you take. Every time you take a turn, he pushes. You want to take as little turns as possible and make as much of an impact on each turn as possible. The other mechanics we have to deal with is a constant barrage of debuffs via this skill, where he'll put down venoms, cannot be buffed, and other skills can reset your cooldowns. So we want to maintain an immunity uptime literally as much as we can. That is our top priority. And on top of that, evasion and dual attacks are disabled, so it minimizes our ability to cheese the boss without playing into the mechanics. Now that you know where we're getting ourselves into, let's talk about the teams. The elephant in the room here is Wukong, who is the best main DPS for the Rift. Is he a must-have? No, I don't think so. But he's so good as a RTA PvP unit that I think that alone is making him worth pulling. So, you know, if it's going to help out our gear income and you have the resources, might as well. Since my priority is still as an RTA player, I'm keeping him on my RTA build. If you do not plan on playing RTA, feel free to gear him like the Vivian you'll see later on. The replacements you can make for him are Bellona, Landy, and Armin for the counterattacks, since only one of the moves block counterattacks and Armin's counterattacks are AoE. Next up is our immunity provider. The number one unit is Ray. He is by far the best in slot. This is just a generic nightmare raid build. As long as he's the fastest unit in your team, you'll be fine. The EE here is to reduce cooldown, and is perfect since we're only allowed to use green units for Rift. Great synergy, and just bring a healing artifact. If you want to replace him, Bernard, the 3-star, is literally a budget version of him, so I highly recommend Bernard. But if you don't have Bernard, you can always take a Destina. A PvP build will do fine, but you do need another source of immunity, such as Vivian. Third up is your defense breaker. Bellona here is by far the best, since on top of the defense breaks, she casts quite a bit of AoE. You only need 105 effectiveness, but my non-PvP gear kind of sucks, so I'm way overcapped. If I have more damage, be better. But the build will still work. Bloodstone for additional healing is what you want here, since in early Rift control, we need as much safety as we can get, and the exclusive equipment is for S2 cooldown, since that means more AoEs and better immunity uptime. If you do not have a Bellona, then you can replace her with a Nysaria with Song of Stars or a Falconer Clurry. That's a 3-star. The last slot here should be a flexible DPS unit that can cover your weaknesses. Vivian is perfect here, I'm assuming, for most players, since she does literally everything you want. Her EE gives her cleanse on her S3. Her S3 also has immunity and attack buff, and her S2 has an AoE to boot. So she covers a lot of people's weaknesses if you do not have the perfect team. Since my Wukong is on PvP gear, I have Vivian on my rage set and boss damage just to cover my lack of damage here. Decent replacements for her are Galililius, Mui, which is huge because Mui actually, if you have the other 3 units, is better than Vivian. She just offers more damage output. And I think Alencia works if you lack some form of defense break. Now that you have the team, let's get things on the road. Before you start, you need to choose which sets you want to farm. If you want to play everything in the game, I actually recommend Speed, Destruction, Immunity, and Torrent sets, since it gives you the widest coverage for all types of usable gear for most of the units in the game. Now, if you're a cleaver, I'd recommend pen set instead of immunity set. And if you're a turtle, I'd recommend the following: destruction set, counter set, immunity set with HP set. And maybe you want to run some protection set in the middle just to get 1 or 2 of those out. No matter what, try to maintain 2 4-piece sets and 2 2-piece sets, so there's always a good balance and you're never too top or bottom heavy on any of your gear sets. Now, on your first run, the Kraken starts at 25% HP, so turn off your Wukong skills and we can just send it. Get that run done, and let's talk about rift levels. As you do more of these runs, your rift level, which increases your boss damage. Cool, but what we really care about are these rift devices. Now, if your team is lacking in cleanse, take this left device. If you're lacking in healing, grab the middle. If you're lacking in damage, or if you're using my exact team and you just want to charge up some damage, take this right side one. Since at level 3, it should honestly let you clear the boss in 2 phases, saving you a lot of energy. And I mean, energy is consumable in the game. As far as tier 2 goes, if you have Wukong, then you almost always want to take right. If you have Galililius in your composition, then you might want to aim to take the left one. And if you're having issues with cooldown resets and you're using Vivian, then you take middle. As far as tier 3 goes, Wukong user will take the left. If you play Galililius or Baiken, then you're grabbing middle. Armin and Albedo users without better options will unfortunately have to take the right side. As far as tier 4 goes, I will probably make a follow-up video by the time most people level up to this point, but if you are lacking lots of damage, since one-shotting the Kraken should be our end game objective, then we can take this left device and remove Ray from our composition. Then we might have to change some things up and get a little bit of healing in. Middle seems really good if you're using Bellona and we know we don't already have this extend debuff duration effect. That's really cool. And as always, just extra turns in the Rift counter force, which allows us more turns in the Rift. It's just good in general. Now, if you set up everything correctly, you should be on the fast track to having gear that is above and beyond what you can get out of Hunt 13. Compared to the last Rift, this one is actually kind of fun, nice theme, and relatively easy. Comparatively speaking, I think for a new player, it is still very tight requirement in terms of what units you can use. So I'm sure as more people start working on the mode and start making progress, there'll be more available compositions to newer players who might not have the units I provided. You really just have to clear that first run, and once you get a well-oiled machine going after that initial run, you should be getting close to clearing it in 2 phases. After that, work on a 1 phase composition. Just work up your rift levels, and the moment you have that 1 phase clear, the gear will come rolling in, and it will come much faster than Hunt's. I promise you that. That's a lazy man's Rift, honestly. Hope that guide was helpful, and if it did, you can always help me back by giving the channel a like, a subscribe, and maybe a comment if you have a question or something like that. It helps small channels like this grow very, very much. I'll be following up on the laziest ways to one-shot Rift with Wukong on a PvP build when I get my 3rd or 4th tier Rift device. Until then, I hope to see you guys in an RTA guide before that, and yeah, have a great one. Stay safe out there. See ya.